You've been in Israel 19 years. You're originally from Dallas in Texas.
Yep. There was Comedy Central. That was basically where you would see stand-up in America. And I started watching this stuff. And when I turned 21, I went to a comedy club in Austin, Texas, where I went to college. I always compare it to playing sports. I choose basketball. I mean, the people who make it, Michael Jordan, whatever, Steph Curry, during modern times, those guys are nuts. I mean, they are insane.
Most unexpected lesson from comedy.
It's a serious business. You got to work your ass off. It's not about how funny you are, it's how hard you work, which is transferable to everything.
How do you reframe that failure so that it doesn't stop you going on stage the next night? Hello and welcome to another Talk with the Scot. I'm sitting here with comedian and author Benji Lovitt. How are you?
Good morning.
Good morning. You're well?
Yeah, doing well.
Glad to hear it. So, before we start, I'm going to put my hands up and say I'm going to take ownership for a failure because this is the second time we are recording this. Because the first time, which we did maybe 3 weeks ago, for whatever reason, I got home and only the first 7 minutes had been recorded. Don't know why. Didn't press anything. Maybe after the 7th minute, technology didn't like your jokes.
It went downhill after 6 minutes, let's be honest.
Yeah, fair enough. I appreciate you coming back.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you for giving up your time. You've been in Israel 19 years.
Yeah, 19.
You're originally from Dallas in Texas.
Yep.
The humour isn't good over there. Like you had to come over here.
I think the humor is better here in some ways. I'm sure we'll talk about it.
Yeah, but you're glad you made the move.
Yeah, aside from all the complaining I do, we'll talk about that too, I'm sure.
You do a lot of complaining?
Yeah, it's good for comedy. It's not good for mental health.
Okay, but surely your comedy is a way to help you deal with your mental health.
Are we ready to jump right in?
I'm going to go with...
You'll hear some people say, like, I use comedy as my own therapy. I mean, I've asked myself, even recently, okay, since we last met, here's a question that's been going through my head. Like, being self-deprecating to me is funny. You know, we watch, like, George Costanza, Larry David. Like, it's funny for people to make fun of themselves. But I wonder, what is the cost of that? You know, I complain all the time about things in this country, which entertains other people. And it seems like a good way to cope. But, you know, I complain way too much. And sometimes I think, if I could stop complaining and be happier but lose my sense of humor, would I do it? And I want to say no, but it's an interesting question.
Are you complaining because there's lots to complain about, or are you complaining to make other people laugh because the alternative is that you would just cry?
Well, it's hard to separate them. I mean, look, I complain when no one's around. When I'm driving and I see people drive poorly, I like curse them out loud. I'm not trying to entertain anyone there. But it's fun to complain, but under that is like a self-righteous, what do you call it? Self-righteousness? Yeah.
Or maybe you just have anger management issues.
That's definitely true. Good country to be in.
If you have anger management.
Yeah.
I think that's on the form before you come in. You need to tick the box, no?
Absolutely.
But let's go back.
By the way, I have it in my rider in the contract for this. You're not allowed to be funnier than I am, so...
Really?
No.
I think the obvious question is, and it's something that I've thought a lot about actually, what draws one into stand-up, to being a stand-up comic? Because, there's a lot of pitfalls, or potential pitfalls, let's be honest about it. So, is there anything, are you the only one in your family that's performed theatre, whatever it might be, the arts? Or is there, has it come from somewhere?
Yeah, I wish I remembered who said this. It might have been Steve Martin in his autobiography I read 15 plus years ago. Someone said, comedians don't want to perform, they have to perform. And there came a time when I said, if I don't do this, I won't be able to live with myself. I don't know if it was in those words, but I had to do it. And even when I started, I took 6 months off and I did it. I just felt so bad not doing it. I mean, maybe that's how we all feel when we have a dream and don't pursue it. But once you do something, you're just drawn to it. It doesn't come from my family. I mean, the humor does, but maybe not the getting on stage part.
Okay. But you said that was a dream. So from what age do you remember thinking about, wow, I want to be up there?
Okay, so I don't know if it was a dream, but so I was a senior in college, 22 years old, and back then there was no Netflix, there was no YouTube. Back in the old days, boys and girls, there was Comedy Central. That was basically where you would see stand-up in America. And I started watching this stuff. And when I turned 21, I went to a comedy club in Austin, Texas, where I went to college, which, by the way, apparently, and I say apparently because I'm out of it in America. I mean, do you know that Austin's like the center of the comedy world in some ways now?
No.
Do you know about Kill Tony?
No.
Okay, so this is like, I'm not the best person to explain this, but there's a comedian named Tony Hinchcliffe. I don't know if you remember, like in the weeks before Trump was elected, there was a big rally at Madison Square Garden and the comedian got up and like called Puerto Rico a floating pile of garbage. It was controversial. This is a guy named Tony, and he started this thing called Kill Tony. It's like this roast/performance thing in Austin where everybody wants to go. Anyway, I saw comedians at the club when I was 21, and they were just gods to me. They were just, I looked at them and I thought, oh my God, who are these people like wrapping the audience around their finger? And it just was so sexy and enticing. And I said, I got to do that. And I didn't know how, I didn't know where. I mean, there was no path really. I mean, now you can be a kid and watch clips on Instagram, but I just knew I had to do this thing. I wasn't thinking about career. I just wanted to do that.
It's fair to say lots of people have, when they're younger, oh, I would like to do this, or I would like to do that, or try this, or try that. And they don't. I'll put my hands up. When I was younger, I wanted to be a professional football player, soccer player. I didn't pursue it. Most people would say it's because I wasn't good enough. But you pursued it. So at what point does, in your mind, does it go from, this is cool, to, like, because you're watching it, to, I'm going to give it a go, because it's a brave.
Yeah. So I'll tell you. So we even said, I think we said right before we turned the microphones on that I'm very hard on myself. I said I feel very guilty. I'm very hard on myself. So I didn't really pursue that dream. Like the standard comedian path up until recently was you perform and you want to get on like late night TV. Late night TV is dying, and now people get Netflix specials. But like I said a few minutes ago, I would do it, then I would get nervous and anxious. I wouldn't do it for a few months. So I have an interesting career. I'm sure we'll talk about this. I'm more of like a corporate comedian. A corporate comedian, someone who doesn't sell tickets to shows, but works with like businesses, let's say cruise ships or companies, and they're brought in and they just, they aren't selling tickets. So I do that, but my audiences are Jewish communities. So, it's a form of cultural entertainment. So, I don't kick myself anymore really, but I still never, quote unquote, went for it. I mean, if you're in New York, you're going on 7 times, maybe 5-7 times a night if you're really good. And here, I managed to make a living, and I've, do a little bit of this, a little bit of that. A lot of people in Israel combine different things. So, look, I'm sure people look at me and say I'm living the dream, but maybe it's an artist thing to always look at other people and think about what could have been. But, it's not so bad. I'm not, but I never feel like I lived the comedian lifestyle, really went for it.
So, okay. So, but what does that mean to you? When you say you never went for it, you didn't push yourself? You didn't, like, what?
Well, yeah, at the beginning, like when I lived in the States, I did open mics, and look, like if you're really going to make it, you got to write every day and watch your videos and edit and try different things. I always compare it to playing sports. I choose basketball. I mean, the people who make it, Michael Jordan, whatever, Steph Curry, during modern times, those guys are nuts. I mean, they are insane. And we hear the stories about the Olympians who are in the gym at 5 a.m. Like the equivalent of that in comedy is every single night, every night writing. And, comedians don't like to write. I mean, after this you told me last time we recorded this podcast, I think you spent like 10 hours. Listeners, that's what Paul does for you. Someone could do that and spend 1 hour, but like you diligently go over everything and every cut matters. Like that's high quality. Most people, how unbearable it is to watch your same jokes 50 times. Like, I don't want to do it. But, now I don't even have those opportunities. I mean, there's not a big English speaking scene here. I mean, what I do is very niche. Like I live in a foreign country and perform in a language that's not native. That's crazy. If I was nuts about it, I would set up, I would go to bars and set up my own comedy nights. And I did that a little bit, but it takes a lot of work. I never put comedy before anything else. I remember 25 years ago thinking, okay, it's Friday night. Either I could go to like a Shabbat dinner, like a Friday night dinner with my Jewish friends, or go to some country western bar 45 minutes away to do 5 minutes at a shitty open mic. I mean, what insane person would choose that? But that insane person is the one who makes it.
Do you think, because you've obviously just touched on, going for dinner or doing 5 minutes at it, you think if you were still living in the States, you would have had a more successful career, if you want to call it that?
I guess if you're watching, you see me shaking my head. I mean, that's the crazy thing. I feel like I had to move here, do what I've done now. If I was in America, I'd probably be in a corporate job or a 9-to-5 job. And when you're an immigrant, especially here in this country that's young and encourages innovation, and there's so many things that have yet to be done. I mean, there wasn't an English-speaking scene when I moved here, so it allowed for being first to market. Let's say, maybe if I was in America, there's the pressure to like go with the flow and do what everyone does and have the more traditional lifestyle, whatever that means. And most people in America go straight to college, whereas you and I took a gap year. The spirit that inspires you to move to another country it's not surprising that someone who would do that would take more risks and do other things. I mean, here I'm having to like scrap and put a bunch of things together to make it work. Whereas in America, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't need to be as creative.
Do you think that's like scrapping around helps you in your creativity?
Yes. In the last 15 years, I've had the opportunity to, I've gotten paid money to do writing and stand-up and English and improv workshops and presentations, all these things under the same sort of speaking umbrella.
Yeah.
I wrote a book. Also, the other thing is, the most fun thing for me to talk about, especially now, is my immigrant experience. I mean, that's what people talk, that's, you joke about what you know.
Yeah.
Someone will say, why don't you joke about this and that? I'm like, that's not who I am. Like, Seinfeld couldn't do Eddie Murphy's material. I just dated myself, I guess. So I enjoy talking about my frustrations as an immigrant and me suffering, whereas in America, I don't know what I would joke about. If I joked about, people often say, why don't you joke about this or that? And that's not what I'm best at. Like, I'm really good at coming up with insights into the immigrant experience that I wouldn't even have been able to do after 1, 2, 5, 10 years.
It's funny you say that, because I remember, I think it's the Scottish comedian Billy Connolly, where he talks about, as a comedian, I mean, he doesn't perform anymore because he's old and he's not well, but he would mention the worst thing as a comedian is when people come up and tell you a joke.
Oh, God. I don't think we talked about this last time because
We didn't.
I would have gotten pissed off and remembered.
Because he said, like, it's funny to you, but my material belongs to me. Because as you just said, it's through your eyes. It's how you view the world or your experiences. He says it's no use somebody coming up and just telling me, here's a joke I heard.
That drives me I'm an overthinker. I'm very sensitive. I get pissed off at people who, before we started, I was asking you about being considerate and in this country and immigrant versus Israeli behavior. I get mad when people aren't considerate. So I know I overreact, but when someone comes up and says that, you almost without fail, they're always someone who's like not socially skilled.
Yeah.
It's someone, the more, to walk up and say, oh, or you should put this in your routine. You should go fuck off. Like, it's someone who it's also someone who doesn't understand comedy.
Yeah.
It's someone who, I also feel like people have no respect for like, it is as professional as any business. You have to work hard, you have to do this and take care of the environment and prepare. And it's an art, but it's also a science. People who think, I could do that. Why does it take 20 years? Why did it take Louis C.K. till his 40s to really become famous? It is so hard. It's sitting at home and watching a football game and say, I could do that. I mean, I'll tell you a quick story.
Go ahead.
It's happened a couple times. I was doing a show like 15 years ago, and, again, it was not in a club. It was like at a Jewish Friday night dinner or something like that. And someone should introduce you with a bio. And I have like a written bio they're supposed to read. And this college student said to me beforehand, like, when I introduce someone, I like to throw in I like to make up a fun fact. Okay. And I was thinking, don't fucking do that. And she introduced me. She said, I don't know what she said. Sometimes people are trying to be funny. They're like, he just flew in from Hollywood and opened up for Seinfeld. Don't say that. Would you say that about anyone who's not a comedian? Like, so about 6 months ago, I'm sitting there arguing with them, like, please do not do, like, why am I fighting with you before the show? And you don't understand why. Yeah. Like, for some reason, people think, oh, like, now I'm going to be funny. It's a funny show. I get to be funny. So about 6 months ago, I was talking to someone who was going to introduce me. And he's like, I was thinking about what introducing you. I was like, don't do it. I just cut him off, and he got very humbled. And so I was like, so I'm glad I'm at the point where I can, at least advocate for myself there. But no one respects, I feel like comedy is not respected.
It's interesting you say that. Because
as a profession,
you think? I think as a profession, it's probably taken a few knocks over the years, like incidents like Louis C.K. that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Things like that probably don't help its cause. But no, I think people that have the ability to stand up.
Okay, smart people probably respect it.
Thanks very much. Okay. we can end it there. But you know what? Let's go back to the beginning.
Yeah.
Because I am interested to hear about the first time you went on stage and how you dealt with, I'm guessing you were feeling sick beforehand. You were so nervous, all the doubts going through your head. And to some extent, that's probably no different to somebody starting a new job or something. Talk us through that.
It's interesting. Someone might think that I'd like to say that the courage that spurred me to do that is like continue throughout my life, but I'm still, I'm still the same person with doubts and fears and this and that. So basically, I practiced really hard for the week before I went on. Whatever that meant. I wrote my jokes out. I read them. I probably stood in my bathroom. I mean, this is 27 years ago, so it's hard to remember. But once upon a time, I did have hair, and I took my brush and held it as a microphone. And I practiced a lot. And I mean, how could you not? I would be terrified otherwise. I mean, I guess some people didn't, but and I got to the club. It was an open mic, and I probably got there very early. And I remember hearing some kind of piece of advice, which is still good for anyone. If you're speaking or doing anything, get to the venue beforehand. I went up on the stage and looked out around the empty room so my first time wouldn't be...
Familiarize yourself.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was first one, and it went well. I got laughs. Practice helps. I mean, no doubt about it. I'm not great at improv. I'm someone who needs to prepare.
Okay.
And, I mean, even today, it's... Most comedians don't like to write. That's where it's like, going to the gym. Like, who wants to go to the gym and work out? But if you're going to play a good game, you got to do all the dirty work in between the games.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll have a show coming up or an open mic just to practice new material. And I'll think, okay, I'm tired of my stuff. I need to work on new stuff. Like, how are you going to get better unless you do new stuff? So I'll sit down and write for 30 minutes and I'll come up with new stuff. I'm like, it worked. How about that? Preparation works, Yeah, I mean, the people who make it are the ones who work their asses off. It's probably the same thing in sports. Like, the ones who make it don't necessarily have the most talent, but they work the hardest.
You don't think that's the same in every industry or position?
Yeah. I mean, if people who are, I mean, I don't really know any actors in LA, in Hollywood, but if you make it, you have to be insane, committed and go into every, there's people who wait tables for 20 years, think they're never going to make it. It's, and then someone will get famous and someone will say they're an overnight success. And anyone knows that's ridiculous. Like, it took 20 years to be an overnight success.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting point because I don't think people appreciate the effort and dedication required to be successful in anything. Doesn't matter what it is, whether it's stand-up or just, starting a company.
Yeah, people did not see you here all night long practicing your podcasting and setting up equipment. No one saw that.
Sleeping bags just in the corner.
They only see the finished product. How was it under the desk there? Was that comfy?
Knowing I was seeing you in a few hours' time, it was fine.
Oh.
Your first time, you go up, you get a few laughs. You probably, as you're on stage, and if you feel like you sense the audience is positively responding to you, you're thinking, all right, it's a drug.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I was thinking. I probably didn't have the ability to be present at the time. But yeah, it is a drug. It's the greatest feeling in the world when it goes well.
Okay. And that gives you the inspiration to just work harder and continue down the path?
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking there were plenty of times, even a few years ago, when I'd be signed up for like an open mic, and the day of I wouldn't be feeling well, and I'd, quote unquote, call in sick. Like, I want to take a mental health day. I'm just not up for it. And only in the last few years I realized that's when I need to do it. Oftentimes that's the only thing which will distract me. It's such a good feeling up there. There's times where, there have been a few times where, okay, look, we live in the Middle East when there's war and bad stuff happening. There have been plenty of times on bad news days or just bad personal days where I got up, and it is total compartmentalization. When you're up there, you can't be down. I mean, it brings you up. The audience is laughing.
Yeah. And
I don't know why it took me so long to realize, but that's exactly when I need to get on stage. It's the only thing that'll distract you. I mean, look, like I had a bad breakup a couple months ago, and I bought an electronic drum kit. And for the first month, that was the only thing that would take my mind off being depressed. It's same kind of thing. It is, you can't be depressed when you're rocking out to Bon Jovi. It's a drug. Yeah, absolutely.
So it's funny you've just touched on all that, because one of the things that I wrote down was about your level of resilience, because you probably need to have a decent amount to do what you do. Because I'm guessing over the 19, 20 years you've been doing this...
Never had a bad show.
Of course. Let's say that maybe you had a bad show.
Maybe even last week. No. Yeah.
How do you deal with that?
Well, you get better at it.
You get better at what? Not having bad shows, or how you deal with...
I was thinking dealing with it. I mean, again, someone who overthinks like me and cares what other people think. Maybe I'll get to a show, I'll walk in, I'll say, oh, this is not going to go well. It's a bad setup. The other thing, I've had to fight with people to make the chairs in the right setup or the lighting or change this or that. Like, that stuff matters.
It matters to you because it
matters that for the outcome. I mean, imagine, if you're playing football, do you want to play, if you are going to give your best, do you want to play on like a good field? Or what if you show up to the field, like the groundskeepers haven't taken care of it and there's puddles everywhere and mud? You say, I can't play in this. I mean, not well.
No, so that's what I'm asking you.
Yeah.
If you arrive at a venue
yeah.
and like the chairs are not set up
yeah.
as you would want, or the lighting's a little bit off, does that get inside your head?
It's not in my head. It's in my head because I know if it's not fixed, it's going to affect my ability to do well. And there were plenty of shows where, okay, the setup wasn't good. Maybe it was at a dinner. Like, if you perform while people are eating, you're going to bomb. Like, comedy is not a background activity like music. Maybe people are at circle tables with their backs to you. Like, it's not going to go well. So I'll ask the the person introducing me, maybe wait till people stop eating, maybe make an announcement, hey, start wrapping up your eating. We're going to start in 5 minutes. Turn your chairs around. Give this, get everyone to be quiet before you start. There were plenty of times where those things didn't happen and I bombed and I wondered, do they know why it didn't go? Do they think it was me? I mean, that drove me nuts. And sometimes, when I first started out, I would say something like, I don't know, it usually doesn't go that way. I'd get defensive. Now, I don't know, a friend taught me a long time ago, just take the check and leave and don't look back. But, and then, sometimes you're just at an open mic at a bar, and the crowd, no one's doing well for whatever reason. Why does material go well one night and not the next night? Who knows? The setup, the audience, just the people who aren't laughers. Maybe they're smiling and not laughing. Who knows? But sometimes, what, I was good. I did well. It just, it wasn't me. But it stinks when it doesn't go well.
It's funny because you're certainly in good company because the Australian comedian Jim Jeffries.
Oh my God. Yeah, he's so funny.
Who I think is hilarious. He does a whole skit about, he was invited by, what's her name, Mariah Carey, to a private gig in her house.
Okay.
Because it was her boyfriend, the Australian billionaire James Packer, I think his name is.
Okay.
And he built the whole story that it's just, doing these private gigs where it's like maybe 10 people around a table. He's like, it's a disaster waiting to happen. He said, but she offered me $20,000. I said no. She came back after a few times, $65,000 for 15 minutes or something. And he said, and it was terrible.
They're not there for they're not paying customers.
Yeah, he said. So I went in and, they're all sitting around. It's Mariah Carey and there's Leonardo DiCaprio. It's like A-list. He's like, and they're all sitting eating and I'm walking around trying to tell this story. Nobody's really listening. Half of them don't know who I am. And he's like, I took the check and I left.
I mean, I don't know if he has the luxury to do that, but I'm sure it bothers him less than me. Like he can say, I'm a millionaire. I don't care what these people think. 15 years ago, I was in like a corporate meeting room trying to prove myself to a tour operator who might bring me in to perform for the groups. It's lunchtime. They're sitting around a table. It's who wants to hear stand up in the middle at 12 o'clock noon when they're busy with work and checking their phones. And, the stakes were higher. I didn't get paid for it. It was like a 10-minute tryout. And afterwards I thought, oh, fuck, God, this sucks. Do they think I'm not good? Like this, it's awful.
I'm sure. I've never been on stage to crack some jokes. It can't be easy. But then how do you deal with it when you know it's not gone well?
In the middle of the show?
Well, you know what? Let's start in the middle of the show. Like, are you able to turn it around and, and make a joke?
Sometimes it's harder to do 6 minutes than 40. 40 minutes, it's a journey and you start off, you could take your time and start with this and win them over. Maybe sometimes they're quiet and you keep doing material. If you have 5 minutes, you better jump right in. There's no time to test stuff out. You don't have a minute. If you tell a joke for a minute before you get a laugh, that's 20% of your time.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can make a joke about it. Sometimes if I'll try a joke and it doesn't work, I'll say something like, that was funnier at home. And they'll let you can't do that more than once, really, but maybe try to switch so I did a show once and in some kind of hall, and oftentimes they'll have you up on a stage, like very high. The closer you are to the audience, the more they laugh. Imagine how are you going to get a better lesson from a university professor if you're in the front row right in front of them, or if you're like in the last of 50 rows.
Yeah.
The closer you are, the more you pay attention and you can see their facial expressions and whatever. So there were times where I got off the stage, I just moved right in front of them, and it's better.
Because you can interact with them.
Yeah, it's just, I don't even know how to explain it, but just, it's funnier if they're close to you. I don't even know how to explain it. Just, you want the room to fit the size, to fit the size of the crowd. If you have 100 people, what's going to be better? A small, intimate comedy club where people are at crowded tables and laughter's contagious, or if you're in a 1,000 person auditorium and there's 900 empty seats. It's not the same.
No, fair enough. I suppose working with the crowd, working with the audience is a big part of comedy. It's funny. The last stand-up comedy show I went to, Yael and I, my wife Yael and I, when we were back in Scotland, we went to see Kevin Bridges, Scottish comedian. It's very funny. And he came on and he started and he's saying, listen, a couple of nights ago, a fight broke out in the audience. I'm asking you, everyone just relax. There was 16,000 people. You mean a serious crowd? Everyone relax, enjoy the show, we'll have fun, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. Like he was on for maybe an hour and a half, whatever. 3/4 of the way in, you just heard this roar and like chairs at the front are getting thrown and there's a big fight breaking out. And he stood there and he's like, I can't believe it. Again. He's like, my material must be so bad. But he's not, he was so funny, and he used it. They got thrown out, but then he used it to bring the crowd back together on his side. That in itself is an art.
Yeah, I mean, you want to talk about what everyone's thinking. You know, we're hopefully at the end of a 2-year war here. And, you know, I was doing a gig 6 months ago, and the person beforehand said, you know, don't talk about the war. I'm like, are you nuts? That's the one thing I have to talk about because everyone is thinking it.
Yeah.
It would almost be weird not to. If people were fighting and the comedian just went on and didn't acknowledge it, that would be weird. I mean, you know, if you're at a club and a waitress drops a big tray of glasses and drinks at the very front, you can't ignore it. You know, you say something. The comedian has to address it.
For sure. But that's interesting because earlier on you said you're not an improv comedian.
Yeah, I'm not great at like always talking to the crowd. You know, I don't know, I get inside my head or whatever, but sometimes I know what situations to address and whatnot and different ways to interact with the crowd. But yeah, I mean, you have to say something.
A lot of the comedians, I like, I've already said about Jim Jeffries. I think Bill Burr is amazing. Ricky Gervais,
Oh, yeah.
I think very funny. But the thing that always gets me is comedy is subjective. Like what I find funny, I'm sure somebody else will not find funny. Somebody may take it in the wrong way or personally or whatever it is. So how do you deal with that? If somebody comes up and says, yeah, I was at one of your shows, you weren't very good, you weren't very funny. Like, does that get to you?
Well, that would drive me to, I mean, that doesn't happen very often. I don't perform enough. Again, I'm not performing in clubs as much, and I don't think that happens. I mean, you have to be really, again, obnoxious / socially unaware to do that. But yeah, I mean, that would drive me crazy. I mean, look, like there are times, again, it's this thing, I didn't mention this word before, but like I get my buttons pushed at lack of humility. Like when I say people don't respect the art, the profession. Sometimes I'll run an idea by a friend. It's not even a joke yet. It's like an idea of a joke. And someone will say, that's not funny. You can't do that. I'm like, of course you can. Yeah. First of all, that's not even the joke yet. You haven't even heard it on stage. Yeah. I don't remember. It happened. I was telling someone a joke idea I had, and someone said, that's offensive. I said, you can't get offended by a joke I haven't even told yet. Yeah. You know, you don't even know what it is. Like, you can't judge it.
And that's my issue with modern day society. I don't know. But it's definitely, people are, just because you make a joke about something, it doesn't mean that that's what you believe. We
must have talked about this last time, but Jim Jeffries has just an unbelievable chunk of material. It's just brilliant. I've sent it to people. It's so insightful and philosophical and brilliant. He does like 5 minutes of Bill Cosby jokes. And then he talks about how a reporter, he got in trouble because a reporter wrote out some of his jokes. And they sound awful. Yeah. You know, without the context or without the build-up and the intonation. Like, you know he's joking in a show. Yeah. And if you read them, they sound terrible. Yeah. You know, the comedian or people were talking about how terrible Jim Jeffries is for making the joke. He's like, you know who had wonderful jokes and no one ever got offended by? Bill Cosby. So, yeah, context matters. These people are not trying to offend. They're just trying to, you know, be funny.
Is there a line?
Everyone has their own. I mean, who knows where it is? Like, some people's line is... Everyone has a different line. And people are terrible at anticipating what they'll laugh at. I do a presentation. Since October 7th, I've done a presentation. Again, like under my umbrella of different products. You know, I have a presentation about dark humor and the power of it as a coping mechanism. At the beginning, I'll say to the crowd, are there things you can't joke about? Someone will say the Holocaust. And immediately then I'll show a clip from like the producers or Curb Your Enthusiasm. People will laugh. You know, that people think, you know, I shouldn't laugh at that, but then they do. I mean, anything can be laughed at somehow. I mean, I wouldn't joke about rape because it hasn't happened to me. I have nothing insightful to add to the conversation. Somewhere out there's a survivor of rape who's making a joke in order to cope or inspire others who've been victims or to call out perpetrators. And they're getting laughs. You know, Tig Notaro is a comedian who revealed her cancer diagnosis on stage. Yeah. I wouldn't joke about that. I mean, I could, maybe if I have something to add or, you know, maybe if a family member had cancer or anyone can make a joke about anything. It doesn't mean it'll be funny, but there's nothing that can't be laughed at somehow by someone. Okay. And people will say you shouldn't joke about it before hearing the joke.
Maybe, probably. You made it... I'm going to say something, and maybe I'm in the minority here, but when I watch a stand-up comedian, I don't connect what he's saying to the person. Yeah. Because, again, Jim Jeffries, he does a whole bit about rape, and he makes jokes and jokes and jokes, and he said, you know, if you want my honest opinion, then no, I think rape is wrong. He's like, but if I come out on stage...
That's the same Bill Cosby, yeah.
And it's true. I mean, Ricky Gervais does the whole thing about the Holocaust and...
Right, but context matters. You've already... you already know Ricky Gervais. He's already earned your credibility. You know, if I see Ricky Gervais do it, I know he doesn't mean anything by it because he makes fun of everyone. Yeah. If it was my first time seeing Ricky Gervais, that was the first thing he said, I'd say, hold on, do I know this guy yet? Do I know, is he on the right side? Is he an anti-Semite?
So you think that all matters?
Yeah. I mean, we like Bill Burr and Louis C.K. because I think we know that we've seen enough of them. We know they're good guys. They're not, Bill Burr is married to a black woman. Once you know that, you're going to, someone's going to take in stride his jokes about African Americans more because they're able to say, okay, we know he's laughing with us, not at us. If you're black, let's say.
Yeah. Okay. We'll come back to comedy in a minute, but you also co-authored a book.
Yeah.
What was why? Where did that come from? What were you trying to achieve?
It's probably something on my long list of things that I quote unquote should do. Okay. I'm saying that's like the artist inner critic voice, and may never have happened. Fortunately, I teamed up with a colleague, another guy who does what I do named Joel Chasnoff. He brought the idea to me. It was during COVID, before Israel's 75th birthday. And he said, this is a great opportunity. And he was already a published author. I said, let's do it. I mean, another thing that I know many people know but don't act on or think about enough consciously, like collaboration is good. Just having an accountability partner is great in business, especially when we're self-employed. We always look at the competition and don't want to share our secrets and this and that. But boy, I mean, working with him, I never would have written that book otherwise. So it was the minute he asked me, I said, let's do it.
You literally just the two of you sat there sharing ideas, sharing stories, and that helped form the book?
Yeah, I mean, first we had to decide, what is it? Is it, we wanted it to be some kind of overview of Israel, but is it going to be for the beginner, or is it going to be for someone who really knows Israel? Is it going to be for a Jewish audience or a general audience? There are pros and cons of each. Is it going to be this comprehensive sort of, what were they called in the old days? The Lonely Planet, those kind of books?
Yeah.
And I mean, thank goodness for Google Docs. I don't know how anyone wrote a book before that, for these collaborative tools. One of the best ideas I had was, it's really hard to structure a book. I'll tell you something interesting in a second. Where do you begin? Yep. And I had the idea of, Israel's turning 75, let's have 75 chapters. And then, it's sort of easy, 75 sort of unrelated little essays. All right, here's something we didn't talk about during the last podcast. I recently agreed to use this. Someone I know is becoming a matchmaker on the side. Okay. And I decided to use her, and I have to make like a 2-minute video. And I thought, how am I going to do this instead of just rambling? So my background in just being creative helped me realize, okay, make like 10 things to know about me. And the minute you do that, it's easy to structure. Okay, it's 10 bullet points. You're not going to just be blabbing and going on this winding road. So once you sort of know how to structure, otherwise, how do you know how many chapters? What are they about? That gave us a good framework. And he said, brilliant, 75, open up a Google Doc, just start throwing out every single idea we could think of, everything to write about, until we whittled it down to 75 under topics of like economy, religion, culture, blah, blah, blah.
But surely that's a similar process to the one you go through when you're writing new material for your acts.
Yeah, I mean, I have when you first start out, you're not thinking about I'm still not thinking about like a 1-hour Netflix show. That's not the game I'm playing. That's not the end goal. I don't live in America. I do very niche material.
Okay.
But the more you do it, eventually you start having like chunks. Okay, this is like my chunk about Hebrew as an immigrant. This is the chunk about relationships, the chunk about family. The more stuff you do, you start to group it together. If you have, like Jimmy Carr, I don't know how he does that. You know him, he does one-liners.
Yeah. I
don't know how a comedian memorizes an hour of one-liners that are not related. I have no idea how they do that. But, Jim Gaffigan, for example, he's a great comedian. He does like a 15-minute thing about going to the gym. Jim Jeffries, the way he got famous in America, he did a 15-minute bit about gun control.
Yeah. It's
brilliant. That's much better than doing like 15 unrelated things. You have a theme. You don't have to start over with a new idea. You just keep building and building. So yeah, structure is good.
Would you say that you're a confident person?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no.
And I had a feeling you would say that. First of all, because we've sort of known each other for a number of years. So then how do you get past that to get on stage?
Look, people say if you're good at comedy, you must be good at X. I don't think I'm a great public speaker, for example. If you just give me a topic to extemporaneously talk about, if you're good at football, what if you threw that person on a basketball court who's never played basketball? Would they be good immediately? Would they be nervous? If you take a comedian and suddenly throw them into a drama as an actor, would they be good? It's different. I know how to be a stand-up comedian, but when you know your jokes are good, when I go on stage, I'm going to do material that I know works, that I've been doing for years, that always gets a reaction. I know it's going to go well.
Yeah.
If I'm doing new stuff, I don't know. Just because I'm confident in stand-up doesn't mean I'm confident in confrontation.
Okay. So then when it doesn't go well, how do you reframe that failure so that it doesn't stop you going on stage the next night?
But when you've done it enough, you realize, all right, there's a footballer. You can't win every game. A basketball player, you can't hit every shot. When you have a bad set, everybody has them. I mean, it's hard for me to believe, but like Jerry Seinfeld has bombed. Everybody's bombed, especially when starting out. But I said last time I tie everything to sports. I like to make sports analogies. But, when, I don't know, in American football, a team loses a game and maybe they have an off week the next week. They hate that. They want to get back on the field as fast as they can. You want to put that loss behind you. If you go on stage, you have a bad night, hopefully you're going on the next night. So you can put it behind you.
But is it a fair analogy? Because obviously sport, football, that's a team sport. It's a team game. So you're not failing as an individual.
Right. So I don't know what goes through the mind of like a great player on a bad team, but it's still frustrating. It probably eats them up inside. They hate to lose. The best players, even on a good team, a bad team, they hate losing. Those are the most hyper-competitive people in the world.
Absolutely. You tell a story on Monday night and it doesn't work. It takes a huge amount of courage to go back out on the Tuesday night and tell the same story again.
Right. I mean, look, if it's an open mic, okay, so let's say you have 6 minutes at an open mic. So you're never going to go out with 6 new minutes.
Okay.
You're going to go out with like 2 minutes of good stuff that works, and then like 1 minute of new stuff, and then 2 minutes of good stuff. We want to put it in an environment that's going to succeed.
Okay.
You want to give it a chance to succeed. So you're going to like nestle it between stuff that works.
So it's like the sandwich mode.
Yeah. If you're doing 6 minutes of new material and the first 5 minutes aren't good, the last minute's probably not going to be good. You've already lost them.
Yeah.
So how are you going to know if that joke works? If I'm getting paid a lot of money, I'm not going to go out and do tons of new material. I want to do my best. You also want to give a paying crowd their money's worth. Like, you shouldn't go out there and do new stuff that you don't know if it's going to work. You want to do good stuff. So, if I've done a joke 100 times, it goes well. All right, so maybe one night doesn't go well. Big deal. Like, it's just, who knows why? You can't have every shot, but overall, if they have a good experience, then everyone's won.
Is that how you try and structure your shows? You will kick off with 2-3 minute, depending obviously how long your set is, but you will start off with something
Absolutely. In anything, in a speech, what do they say? You want to start strong, finish strong, and no one remembers the middle?
Yeah.
So, okay, let's say I'm in the States, performing in all different cities. I like coming up with a local joke. It's fun. It's fun to do something new. It's fun for them. Hopefully, if it's funny, it's fun for you.
Yeah.
It's a good, writing exercise to keep flexing those muscles.
Yeah.
So often on the plane into the city, I'll like open up like Wikipedia or trivia about Chicago, Illinois. And I'll look at the things. I'll see, how can I make a joke about that? Like, what's an example? I don't know. Like, it's just the first thing that comes to my head. This was like 15 years ago. This would get a huge laugh. So there's a University of Maryland. Their mascot is, all American universities have like mascots for their sporting events. The terrapin. It's like a kind of turtle.
Okay.
So I think their slogan is like, fear the turtle. I hope I'm getting that right. I think it's fear the turtle. So I said something like, I came to Maryland and someone said, fear the turtle. I was like, I live in Israel. I fear Hamas. Just that would get a big laugh because they had never thought about that before. It just takes their experience and turns it upside down.
Yeah.
But sometimes I'll think, it'll be 5 minutes before I'm going to go on. And I'm looking at these new jokes I've written. I'm like, if I'm not super confident in that, it's not worth the risk. I don't want to get on and not have a laugh at the beginning. You have to, if the first thing you say doesn't get a laugh, that's fucking scary. They might make up their mind about you immediately.
And you sense that when you're on stage, your first joke, it doesn't go well. Does that not change what you're going to say? Because I would imagine that.
Well, you quickly move on to something that does, but either 5 minutes beforehand, I'll think, what? It's not, I wrote this joke. I don't know if it's going to go well. I'm going to skip it. Or sometimes I'll come up with like 3 minutes of local jokes. And after 2 minutes, I'll be like, all right, I'm done. I'm going to move on to my good stuff.
Interesting.
But okay, I'll tell you what sucks. So every comedian has like a closer. Like, you want to end with your strongest stuff. Once in a while, and if your closer doesn't go well, you're like, oh, fuck. You can't leave on not a laugh. So either, let's say I'm doing 40 minutes and 37 minutes go great and, the last minute doesn't. Sometimes I'm like, all right, I'm confident enough they had a good time. All right, thank you. Good night, everyone. Or sometimes you're like, fuck, like I got to pull out another joke, which I didn't plan to do because I don't want to leave on that.
Yeah. It's very interesting for me because obviously I'm sitting here and I'm listening to you and I sort of set up this podcast to focus on personal stories, relating it to successes and failures in one's professional career. But it often goes in many different directions. And 3 things that I've been sitting here whilst you've been talking and just sort of listening to you is about your level of persistence and really embracing that level of vulnerability and then learning from your mistakes. And those are transferable. So those are not exclusive to being a comedian. Those are in any professional settings and also personal settings. There's a lot of crossover there. It doesn't matter, you mean, and I say this with all due respect, I could be sitting opposite anybody and it would be the same.
Yeah, I mean, it just hit me. We haven't even talked about the business side. I mean, talk about failures. Like, I knew I was getting good when the stand-up became the easy part. I mean, in sales, I don't know, you send out 100 emails, make 100 cold calls. Maybe you get 3 responses. I mean, it sucks.
Yeah.
Like when I don't know, I'll have a great show and afterwards, okay, I need to be a good marketer. I'll send a follow-up email. Hi, it was a lot of fun. The show could have gone great. Could you give me a quote, a testimonial for my marketing materials? They don't write back. It drives you fucking crazy. I mean, how do you not take that personally? It went so well. Why don't they get back to me? People not responding to you. I mean, I guess that's why if you're in the entertainment business, you have an agent maybe to do that stuff. But, again, if you're in my business, you do it yourself.
Do you want an agent?
You want to do it?
I'll do it. If anybody's listening and needs a client, let me know. Otherwise, I'll do it.
But the business side, it sucks.
You don't enjoy the business side?
It keeps me from doing this. Look, if you're working smart, let's say you hire someone to do your social media. That's now let's say an integral part of the business. It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
So right now I've been doing it myself, but the more I'm working on emails and calls, it's less time than I'm working on setting up shows and filming myself and writing material. One thing that, I'm not in America, I'm not in that entertainment scene, but I think what drives a lot of comedians crazy is now a lot of people the people who have the most followers are getting the biggest opportunities. Someone can have 1 million followers, but, maybe they're good at social media. They're not so funny. I don't know. Someone has amusing viral videos. They're not a stand-up comedian.
Yeah.
And then they'll get, someone will say, oh, look at them. They have a big audience. I'll give them a shot. And you're like, why should that matter? What should matter is how good of a stand-up comedian are you? So, the hard part is often the business side, the stuff you don't see.
Yeah. If anybody listening is a community manager and wants to do pro bono work for a poor comedian, reach out to Benji. He'd happily speak to you.
Benji at poorballoser.com.
All right, we're going to do some quick fire questions.
Let's do it. You not say quick fire in this region? It's a little triggering.
Is it? We're going to do some questions. What's the funniest failure you've ever had?
I think I didn't know how to answer this question last time. I got nothing for that one.
I'm glad you prepared.
Edit that out.
No, I'm going to keep in.
Okay. I think this podcast is the funniest failure I've ever had. Me, not you. I'm failing. You're doing great.
I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Thanks very much. Go-to coping mechanism when things go wrong.
Laugh. Make fun of it. Make fun of myself. Find someone else. Find another comedian to commiserate with.
We'll come back to that.
Yep.
Favorite comedian?
You know what? It used to be Brian Regan for about 20 years. Americans know him. Then it was Bill Burr. I believe I introduced you to him. I'm going to say, just for the listeners out there, he's not my favorite, but there's a guy I've really been watching on Instagram for the last year or so. His name is Sam Morrill. Morrill. Very funny. Very good.
All right. Never heard of him. I will check him out.
Yep.
Most unexpected lesson from comedy?
It's a serious business. You got to work your ass off. It's not about how funny you are. It's how hard you work, which is transferable to everything.
That is true. One piece of advice you give everyone about resilience?
The hardest part is in our heads. Often the hardest part about getting through something is just deciding to do it. Who said it? John F. Kennedy said the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. The hardest part about doing stand-up is deciding to do it.
All right. Dream audience to perform for?
I'd say English-speaking Israelis. I don't know. I mean, I knew I was, but there's a few times I feel successful as an immigrant and as a comedian. It used to be performing. My best audience used to be immigrants right off the boat from an English-speaking country. But that was low-hanging fruit, the general immigrant complaints anybody could make. But when I can make an Israeli audience laugh, not only am I feeling accepted, think about being a white comedian in a fully black crowd in America. If you can make them laugh, that's considered a big deal. You're winning over an audience that, is maybe you're not a part of.
Yeah.
And because I'm making fun of insights or things in their country they hadn't thought about, I know I've made it, quote unquote. They accept me. It's a good feeling.
Last time something or somebody made you laugh uncontrollably?
I'll say last night I saw The Hangover again. Hollywood movie. Very funny. You got to see it.
I've seen it.
Oh, okay. Forgot.
Parts of it are funny. But I'm not such a I'm not such a movie person.
So I would say, again, because context matters in comedy, I saw it last night at an outdoor screening surrounded by hundreds of people. I laughed much harder than I would have laughed at home by myself.
That's true. I understand that.
So sometimes someone will see 5 minutes of a comedian on YouTube, be like, he's not funny. I'm like, trust me, I'm a professional. Trust my professional judgment. Watch a full hour of this person or go to a club and see him. It's a different experience.
I remember, and we are going back about 26, 27 years. I went to see Billy Connolly live, and I'm not exaggerating. For 2 or 3 days, I had pains in my stomach and my jaw. It was as if I'd been made to do, like 10,000 sit-ups.
Wow.
I was in so much pain because I don't think I've laughed so hard in my life.
That's amazing.
It is. And that's why I have so much respect for people that go up on stage and can make others laugh. Because, we've all been in an environment where maybe we're sitting in our office or at home and we'll say something that's funny and a few people will laugh. But that's in a closed environment.
Yeah.
I think there's a huge difference between that as opposed to putting yourself up on stage with the lights, being vulnerable, having to deal with all the self-doubts of, am I going to be funny? How am I going to deal with it if I'm not funny? What are they going to think of me?
Yeah, going back to what we said at the beginning about the people who are the least funny, the ones who say you should use that or you can use that. Whenever someone says, my friend says I should do stand-up, they're probably not that funny. They're probably not that funny. It's easy to make your friends laugh. That when someone tells a story and no one laughs, you had to be there. Well, yeah, if you were there with you, I'm sure you would have laughed. But make strangers laugh. That's how you know when you're good.
Talking of that, I did a presentation recently, and what you were talking about, preparing and practicing. So whenever I do a presentation or stand up at an event and I present, I have the first sort of minute in my head. After that, I've got no idea.
That's amazing to me.
Like, I've got my slides, but I've got no idea what I'm going to say.
That I couldn't do.
Right. So lots of people have said that to me. Oh, we couldn't do that. And I'm the opposite. I couldn't stand there and practice because I just feel more comfortable if I'm being authentic and on the spot. But at different times, I was throwing in, like, I obviously hadn't prepared it, but I threw in a few jokes. And afterwards, somebody sent me a WhatsApp message saying, oh, I didn't realise you're so funny. That was great. And I thought, that's better feedback than they learnt from my slide deck. That for me was like, all right, that's good.
Yeah,
I'll take it.
People like humour.
But I think it's important, especially in today's world, where, let's be honest about it, there is so much shit going on. And I'm not just talking about the Middle East, all over the place. We've got to be able to laugh.
I'm not going to get political here, but like when President Trump was, running for office, there was a complaint among some people that they'd never seen him laugh. I still don't remember seeing him laugh. Like, what does that mean if someone can't laugh? If someone can't laugh at themselves, what does that say about that? Are dictators, I'm not talking about Trump, but in the Middle East, are these dictators able to be self-deprecating? Probably not. If you make fun of them, you get killed.
Maybe. But I do agree. I think it's important that we can laugh at ourselves. And I don't think I've told the story on here, but just after my dad died, so it was my brother, myself, my two sisters, and we're sitting there and people are coming in and seeing us, and somebody came in and I can't remember what they said. It wasn't bad, it was just, a comment. And as a joke, my brother turned round and he said, oh, come on, have a bit of respect, we're 4 orphans here. Now, we were in our 30s, hardly orphans, and we cracked up laughing. And everybody else that's just sitting around thinking, 3 days ago their dad just died, and they're I think humour has the ability to get us through the dark times.
Yeah, so that's a big part of what I talk about in this presentation. I talked about the coping power of comedy. Is that we should never feel bad laughing. Like, people sometimes laugh and then feel guilty, but it is a totally human emotion to cry. It's human to laugh. Why do people laugh? They just do, either surprise or nervousness or, crossing a line that's quote unquote, you're not supposed to do that. The illicitness or the danger of saying something that everyone's thinking no one wants to say. That's funny.
I agree. I try to end each episode with failure is a bruise, not a tattoo. Which basically means you failed, it's not permanent, and how you recovered and moved on. Can you share with the listeners one experience or one standout moment that where you've failed and you've moved forward from it.
All right, I'm going to try to be specific and not just. All right, you know what? Fine. Here's one. It's not. Thank God it's not a major memory in my life because I've been able to move on. So like 2 months ago, I was asked to perform at a woman's 80th birthday party, and I spent a couple of hours like interviewing the family members or writing all this stuff about her. It bombed. I mean, we were talking about before. It was not. No one was there to hear a comedian. I got there, big room, circle tables. You know, I asked the family, can we bring your, it was a surprise. She didn't know me. I asked, can you bring her up on stage so people can see her? And they said, no, she's shy. So she sat in the front row facing the stage. No one could see her face. And some stranger who didn't know her 5 minutes before was making jokes about her. Not mean, but it was not good. I mean, I said beforehand, I was like, can I meet her? So she gets they said, no, it's a surprise. She doesn't know who this person is. I'm making an outsider who's making all these inside family jokes. It's strange. Who's this guy making all these inside jokes? It's just incongruous. Nobody laughed. It went on for about 10 minutes. And I mean, thank God I didn't memorize it. About a month before, I was preparing for a couple months. At some point, I was like, why am I going to memorize this? Like at the Oscars, they're reading off a teleprompter.
Yeah.
So I was, reading a little bit. And that was one of these take the money and go. And I was hoping the audience was smart enough to realize this is a no-win situation. But the son was like, you want to stay for dessert? I'm like, no, I'm going to go back to Tel Aviv. I get the fuck out of there. And I've done it enough times. Like, who gives a shit? Like, thank God there's no one from HBO watching me. It's not going to make or break my career. The more you do it, the better you realize what you're good at, what you're not good at. If someone came to me and said, hey, would you stand up at our wedding? I'd be honest. I'd be like, you know what? They're not there to see me, not the best environment. If they really are pushing, I'll name a high number. So either they're going to say no, it'll scare them off, which is not bad, or you'll get so much money that who gives a shit. So, 10 years ago, that would have like really bummed me out, that crappy birthday party. But you do it enough, you take things in stride and know some things matter and some don't.
Benji, it's been a delight sitting here listening to you.
I just saw the power button is off. Did this record?
That's not bad. That's not bad.
This was fun. Again.
Yes. Thank you very much for coming back for the second time.
Absolutely.
Good to see you.
Take care.